¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday. Howdy, everybody. Let me just do one of these real quick. There we go. Hey, Carlos. Hope you're having. I hope you have a better day today. Yeah. That depends on if trolls show up and whatnot. How's everybody doing? Alio, yes, the strikes. We're going to talk about that. The House approved two pieces of legislation on Wednesday, one to impose a tentative agreement that members of the four unions have already rejected, keeping 115,000 rail workers on the job and averting a strike. Averting a strike, they'll require railroads to give an hourly employees up to 7 days of paid sick time a year. A key point of contention in contract negotiations, but it's not over yet. Both will have to go to the Senate for votes as soon as Thursday, tomorrow. Yeah. Greetings, how's it going? Alio with the 10 biddies. Thank you so much, I appreciate that. Let me just give quick shout-outs. Professor Woobles and Cool Beans, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Yesterday. Have you changed time zones? No, I just started an hour later because I had to make a quick mission. That may be the case tomorrow. That may be the case tomorrow that I have to start again at 6. We'll see. We will see. I'll make another post on the Discord and Twitter. So just follow the Twitter and follow the or join the Discord. I always make any type of updates or announcements on both of those. If it's a change. Out saving the world? Sure, I'll go with that. Makes me feel better. I'll take it. All right, folks. We're gonna try to get through this as much as possible. I thought yesterday got so bad you were disrupted. No. It's hard to really get me off my game. You can try, but trust me, I will always be here as much as I can. You got more patience than me, that's for sure. That's the name of the game. Bipedal Meatbag, that's the name of the game. I'm here to win. Okay? I'm here to win. I'm here to win and make my points. And make them as salient as possible. Can I say I have to leave that got too bad? Yeah, well, you can blame the trolls in chat. For that, they decided that, they were going to say some really dumb stuff. But that's okay. You know what? We're going to try to be better than that. We're going to try to avoid... We're going to try to avoid being told that what you're seeing in front of the screen isn't real. All right, we're going to try to avoid being gaslit in 4K. There's some Blur sports that are not fun to watch. This wasn't this wasn't about fun. This wasn't about entertainment or having fun. It was mostly about the truth, right? It's about the truth. Like, if I wanted to do entertainment, if I wanted to turn this into an actual entertainment spectacle, I would have just brought them on Discord like they wanted to, right? I would have brought them on Discord like they wanted to come on Discord. I would have just done that. But I'm not here to do that especially with such a important topic. Like I don't think that, making things like, the right to self-determination and bodily autonomy and things like that, the rights of people to just be, the rights of people to make their own choices and whatnot, that's not a show to me. That's not a spectacle. And I'm not going to bring somebody on and make a show out of it. So you're right. It's not fun. It wasn't supposed to be fun. So I apologize for that. Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be fun. If I wanted to make that, if I wanted to make it like that way, I could have. The thing is, the rest of the chat were with you, and I was telling you at one. Oh yeah, no, it's about making sure that giving every single opportunity, possible, and illustrating the point that people like me don't just say things for the sake of saying things, okay? We listen and we've understood and heard these arguments time and time again. We've given every single possible opportunity. And yet they still do it. Yet they still do it, Yet they still want to 1984 you in real time. They tell you that what you're seeing isn't true. Yeah, I know my points were salient. I just wanted to make it abundantly clear that kind of stuff doesn't fly here. Yeah, what kind of fun? Yeah, no, there was no fun, no fun. Okay, when socialism is when no fun. So that's why that happened. He was in other rooms doing the same thing. True. I've seen that username before. I've seen that username in several chats before. I try not to dignify anything they say with a response. Yeah, I think that's probably the correct thing to do, honestly. Especially now, given the fact that, well, I already said my piece. I already said my piece and I already proved the points that I needed to prove. If there's no reasoning past that, then there's no point in dignifying anything further with a response. Another thing that I was thinking about is like, while it is true, or at least I think that it's important to not let things slide. It's important to not let things go by the wayside without responses, right? Like, oh, I'm not gonna respond to that or whatnot. But sometimes I guess that is the case. Sometimes it is the case that you need to be that way. The trolls were trying to be debate bros. It didn't work. No. If you're actually gonna try to be a debate bro, you better have your ducks in a row. If you're gonna try to out debate bro me, you're gonna need to have your ducks in a row. That's all I've got to say. If you're trying to out debate bro me, it's not gonna really work. Anywho, if they had their ducks in a row, they wouldn't be debate bros. True.
Please clap.
And the thing is, like, it's they're not a troll necessarily. Because I've seen and heard this person. Some people have decided to entertain that person, like actually on Discord, and they're just about as insufferable. So this is a real person. It was not fun to watch, and they wasted your time. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Cosmic Seeking. It wasn't intended to be fun. So I apologize for that. Although I do agree, it was a waste of time. I do agree. After a certain point, but ADT proved the points. Yeah, I think that I caught myself and basically made the arguments that I needed to do. One thing I will note that I kind of didn't catch until like I thought about it afterwards, because like I take these things very seriously. I take the issues that I believe in, and I take the stances that I believe in seriously. And I always think about like the people that I interact with, you know, did I do the best to make sure that I didn't, you know, to make sure that I wasn't being irresponsible, and to make sure that I fight for the things that I believe in properly. And I think that I missed something very telling that I thought about. One of the things that stood out later on was that they said that the left, the implication, of course, he said you guys, the implication of you guys is the left, right? Or left-leaning people, or at the very least, like associated with the left or adjacent, or you know, it's associated with the left, right? That's basically the implication of you guys, right? To be crystal clear of what this person was referencing. Said that we were just mad because of the outcomes, because we didn't like the outcomes. That's why we were mad. And it's like, well, yeah. Yeah, why aren't you mad? The left is angry because people lost, or the right to bodily autonomy and the right to self-determination was basically yeeted by the Supreme Court. The real question is, why aren't you mad? Of course we didn't like the outcome. Anybody who believes in the right to self-determination and bodily autonomy didn't like the outcome. That's the point. Yeah, we're angry. Why aren't you? I did say a little bit of the discussion, and whilst I was doing other things, obviously what I saw was patchy, but it sounded like it was just a wayward way of debating separation of powers between the federal and the state, or at least that's the end point of it. Yeah, like, their argument was of the most literal senses, right? They were trying to basically break it down to, well, they technically, actually, literally, in a legal sense of the, like, no, dude, come on, bro. You know how that's not what I was referring to at all. I was making the point that when, you know, the Supreme Court justice hearings were going on, when the senators specifically asked these justices, you know, how do you feel about, you know, the rulings of Roe v. Wade? It's not because, you know, it's not it's to get a gauge of how they would rule, right? And as it turns out, by their own admission, that was the metric by whether or not they were going to support these nominations. That's it. And of course, they did a boom, 180. A lot of women voting against abortion rights believe that they will still be able to get an abortion if they need one. I don't know how to feel about that statement. That might be true. I don't know. I'm a lib and I was with you all the way. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like any left-leaning, even if you're a lib, left-leaning lib, whatever you want to call yourself, I don't know. Whatever you want to self-label yourself. Anyone related, adjacent, or of the left is what he meant. Yeah, he refused to believe the SCOTUS lied, even though like by the admissions of like the people who voted to nominate these people said like, yeah, dude, we felt kind of sketched, you know? The GOP feelings and our viewpoints are not civics or logical thought, and people can be of the opposing view if people want. Yeah, true. True. No, I'm not kicking it off again. They're not here. I'm just explaining what happened yesterday. Anyways, I think that was like one of the most important telltale, I don't know, whatever the saying is. All right, was the fact that they made the statement that we're just mad because we didn't get the outcome we wanted. The outcome we wanted was for people to have the right to bodily autonomy. So, like, what does that say about you? Is like my point that I just kind of remembered off the top of my head. Anywho, tomorrow, folks. Tomorrow we might have to do we might have to do stream again at 6 p.m., but we'll see. Keep that in mind. Join the Discord. Follow me on Twitter and whatnot. I mean, I don't mind if somebody makes a state arguments because I think within the framework of the U.S. it's fine, but I think it's disingenuous to try to reframe it as something else that's more factual. There's no point in debating peripherals just to get to the point and make things clear. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but it's not about... Yeah, I don't want to bathe in rightness. I want to make sure... I want to make sure that what I believe in, I defend properly. So that's the name of the game, basically. All right, folks, we've got limited time, so I'm gonna start with some headlines. Yeah, if a woman can't afford to cross state lines to get an abortion, what will they do? Nothing. They get effed. They pretty much get effed. And you can thank conservatives and the Republican Party. Aha, yeah. Suffer like the Lord intended. Exactly. Exactly. All right, folks. Let's do this. Pirate Ninja, how's it going? Welcome. More like suffer to bring corporations more low-wage workers. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. ADT debated the opposing view wisely and thoroughly. Well, I appreciate that. I certainly hope that that is the case. It's not bad, but it's my Saturday. Hey, you get a clap for that. Nice. Round of applause for the early weekend on a Wednesday. Nice. All right, let's talk about this. House Democrats elect Representative Hakeem Jeffries as the leader, the first black person to lead congressional caucus. House Democrats elected their new leadership team on Wednesday, ushering in a new, younger generation of leaders after Speaker Pelosi and Majority Leader Steny Hoyer decided to step aside after Dems narrowly lost a majority this month. Pelosi of California was the first female Speaker of the House, will pass the torch to Representative Hakeem Jeffries, who ran unopposed for Minority Leader, and will make history as the first black lawmaker to lead a political party's caucus in either chamber. Well, I mean, yeah, that's good. The problem is Hakeem Jeffries is literally just like Nancy Pelosi, but 20 years younger. Or, 30 years younger? Whatever. AOC sucks? Really? What did she do this time? How's it going, Kevin? Today, with immense pride, I stood in front of the House Democratic Caucus as a candidate for Democratic leader, and I'm eternally grateful and trust for the colleagues that placed in me with their votes. Jeffries' top deputy would be Representative Catherine Clark, a progressive who served under Jeffries as vice chair of the Democratic Caucus and rose to assistant speaker of this House. Of this Congress, she was elected minority whip by party's top vote counter. Rounding out the trio of new leaders is Representative Peter Aguilar, a congressional Hispanic Caucus member, and former mayor who was elected Democratic Caucus chairman, the role Jeffries held for the past 4 years. The Congressional Progressive Caucus is a joke. They'll take anyone. She voted against the railroad workers. Well, that's a bad vote. That's a bad vote. Hakeem Jeffries has been appropriately programmed for the role. True! The Dems need another Nancy. She saved the Dems skin so many times. Yeah, but I think we need a different, we need something new. We can't continue. Well, let me rephrase that. The Democratic Party cannot continue, to play business as usual. They need to put the pedal to the metal. And I don't think it was a good idea to nominate somebody like Hakeem Jeffries, who is just literally like Nancy Pelosi 2.0. I think we need to get away from this corporate kind of wing. If the Democratic Party wants to, I don't know, do something, but otherwise it's just the same old. Nothing fundamentally changes, and we're going to be right back to where we started. So yeah. This is a moment of transition. Jeffries told a small group of reporters on the Capitol, in the Capitol on Tuesday night. We stand on the shoulder of giants, but we're also looking forward to be able to do what's necessary at the moment to advance the issues. The current big three Democrats, only Clyburn, the current majority whip, has opted to stay in leadership in the new Congress. He will run for the job of assistant leader, which has been considered the number 3 post in a minority in the past, but will shift down to number 4 in this Congress. Clyburn's decision frustrated some younger members who had hoped new Congress would start with a clean slate. And on Wednesday, Representative David Cicilline, I don't know, whatever, announced a surprise bid against Clyburn for assistant leader, and that election will take place on Thursday. In a letter to colleagues announcing his run, Cicilline said, "I think it's critical that House Democratic leadership team fully reflects the diversity of our caucus and the American people by including LGBTQ plus members at the leadership table, of which I've decided to run for assistant leader." One young Democratic member who is backing Cicilline expressed frustration Wednesday with Clyburn's decision to run for leadership again. "I think it's pretty ridiculous that Nancy had to leave. She was the most effective leader in history." I don't know about that, but I'm not sure why Clyburn didn't have to leave with her. So there you have it. Do the Dems actually remove the speaker's soul before installing them? I don't know. Maybe it comes up in like the new update. Once you start dialing for dollars. Nancy was the fox in the hen house, and the Dems needed that. No, I think what they need is to have a little more fight. I think really. Enough with like the dilly-dallying with having these corporate kind of Democrats while simultaneously trying to push yourself as a party that is friendly to labor, because you can't have it both ways. Like, you can't say in one breath, like President Biden, that, you know, he's going to be super pro-labor and super this and whatnot, and then, you know, turn around and do this kind of stuff that we're going to talk about. So yeah, we need to change that. If the Democratic Party wants success, that's what they would do. If the Democratic Party wants success, that's what they would do. They would go and actually put the pedal to the metal. If you know, and do something if they want. The only contested race of the day, Democrats on Wednesday elected Representative Ted Lieu as Democratic Caucus Vice Chair at the number 5th slot in the leadership. Lieu and Air Force Reservists beat out 3 other strong contenders: Congressional Black Caucus Chair Joyce Beatty, Debbie Dingell, Madeline Dean. In recent years, other young and ambitious, talented Democrats looking to climb the leadership ladder discovered they had nowhere to go but out. Democratic Caucus Chair Javier Becerra took an appointment as California's Attorney General and then named by President Biden as Health and Human Service Secretary. The two of Pelosi's little deputies in leadership, Chris Van Hollen and Ben Lujan of New Mexico, successfully ran for seats in the Senate once their options ran out. Okay. Pelosi and Hoyer won't be going far. Rather than resign, the two they said that they will remain in Congress, and on Tuesday night, the House Democratic Steering and Policy Committee unanimously voted to grant Pelosi a ceremonial title of Speaker Emerita. The resolution bestowing the honor of Pelosi was offered by Jeffries. Speaker Pelosi will go down as one of the greatest legislative leaders in American history, and said the steering committee co-chairs Eric Swalwell and Barbara Lee and Cherry Bustos. By granting Speaker Pelosi this honorific title, we proudly celebrate her marble ceiling smashing and legendary public service. Asked about how leadership style might differ from Pelosi, a shrewd legislator who ruled her caucus at times with an iron grip, Jeffries seemed to take a team-first view. House Democratic Caucus is at it is best when everyone has an opportunity to be on the playing field, playing the right position. Well, like the thing is, this guy has often been incredibly hostile, um, incredibly hostile to the more progressive members of the Democratic Party. Often sneered, at the idea that they would be effective in their elections and whatnot. So I don't know, dude. Are you? Do you actually believe that you're gonna have you're gonna actually offer these progressives a seat at the table? You're gonna actually offer a position? So that's all we needed to do? Offer Pelosi a role as a legislative deity? Yeah, apparently that's all you needed to do. Oh, that and as the investigations into whether or not Congress should be engaging in what can only be described as, well, insider trading. When those talks started to get more and more traction, that also might have done it. Her losing the House, and basically being like 10,000 years old, might have also had something to do with it. Hey Heat, how's it going? Jeffries dodged several questions about what it meant to him for him to be the first black person to lead either party in Congress. I haven't really had the opportunity to reflect on that to the extent that I spent any time dwelling on outside narratives of magnitude or the magnitude of the moment. It would take away from having to make real-time decisions as we prepare to organize for the new Congress. Hola, Brosev. Howdy. But after his election on Wednesday, Jeffrey spoke emotionally about how he grew up in the Crown Heights neighborhood of Brooklyn, raised by working-class parents, a caseworker and a social worker during the crack cocaine epidemic of the 80s and 90s. That was perpetuated by... Who was president in the 80s again? I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful for their love, support, and prayers, and throughout the years, through my journey into adulthood and my journey as a public servant. Pelosi, in a statement, praised the new leadership team, promising an orderly transition to the next Congress and expressing gratitude for her time as leader. Together, this new generation of leaders reflect vibrancy and diversity of a great nation and will reinvigorate our caucus with new energy, ideas, and perspective. No, I'm thinking Reagan. Redistricting in New York and Florida lost the U.S. House. Yeah, well, that's true. Well, it definitely played a big factor, Alio, that's for sure. There's actually, I suppose, an ideological, coherent reason for picking a middle ground person for a role like this. So when we understand left and right as a line of compromisability rather than a line of policy preference, which is how it's usually done, in poli-sci, it's better to have a more compromising person in a central role, as they're more willing to listen to different sides and bring them together to get things done. Yeah, I mean, like, right, but you're thinking about things as in a normal, like, environment, in a vacuum. But I don't know if, like, the situation we're in right now, how viable that is. Given the environment that we're in politically. Anywho, yep, Hakeem Jeffries will replace Nancy Pelosi as Speaker, and I'm sure that not much will really change from here, unfortunately.
He might think it's a bit.
Ah. Rail unions decry plan to impose deal through Congress. So it's happening, folks. Railroad workers have expressed dismay at Joe Biden's proposed solution to a looming strike that threatens to derail the U.S. economy, which they say belies his image as the most pro-union president in generations. Right. You can't do that if you have corporate ties. You can't do that if you're trying to, appease the railroad companies over the economy. Whatever that means. As of December 9 deadline looms for the long-running labor dispute between the U.S. largest railroad companies and their unions, Biden has called on Congress to intervene and block a strike that could cost the economy about $2 billion a day by some estimates. The impending strike comes as the U.S. struggles with a cost-of-living crisis driven by a 40-year high in inflation, and Biden said that the railroad labor action would devastate our economy. So for that reason, he feels the need to justify Congress to get involved in this. Obviously, people on less compromising parts of the line won't like it, but that's kind of the idea. Well, yeah, like in theory, like that's how it should be, but yeah. When I say compromise, mostly mean within the Democratic Party itself rather than the Republicans, although there would be a little bleed with your more conservative blue team members, and what I'm saying is not ideal, but I think you can twist their arm if you do it right and get what you want. Maybe. I mean, a genuine good faith open seat or open door to more like progressive ideas on the Democratic Party would be would be well received, I think. On Wednesday, today, Congress is expected to pass legislation that will force a settlement. Union leaders are unhappy that Biden's solution appears to be the imposition of a settlement reached in September that has already been rejected by many for failing to address the members' concern about pay, sick days, and staff shortages and time off. Joe Biden blew it, said Hugh Sawyer, treasurer of the Railroad Workers United, a group representing the workers from a variety of railroad unions and carriers. He had the opportunity to prove his labor-friendly pedigree to millions of workers by simply asking Congress for legislation to end the threat of a national strike on terms more favorable to the workers. Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. TLDR, Joe Biden had this opportunity. Joe Biden had this opportunity handed to him on a silver platter. He could have told the railroad companies, hey, if you don't fix this, we're going to get involved. But we're going to get involved in favor of the workers. I'm just saying. Or just have done it from the beginning. Bernie Sanders is the amendment king for a reason. Without compromising his principles, he can negotiate with the best of them. That's true. That's very true. Sadly, he could not bring himself to advocate for a lousy handful of sick days. The Democrats and Republicans are both pawns of big business and corporations. Yes, in this sense, this is true. Matt Parker, a locomotive engineer and chairman of the Nevada State Legislative Board of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, said the overly simplistic approach that the administration has taken to this whole issue shows how out of touch they are with the plight of the railroad workers. Yeah. Really frustrating stuff. Railroad workers have threatened industrial action over their lack of paid sick time and the rail company's disciplinary attendance systems in which they are penalized for taking unpaid time off, an issue workers say have contributed to a lack of work-life balance on the job. 4 of the 12 railroad unions representing a majority of the railroad workforce have rejected a tentative new union contract agreement which fails to address their concerns. Again, if you don't address the concern, then then they have no incentive to call off the strike, right? If the problem is paid sick leave or paid time off or scheduling or conditions or a combination of all that, And your solution to it is like, yeah, we'll give them like I don't know, like a couple of paid sick days and then like a bunch of money. But the issue was never money. If the general viewpoint is Biden blew it, is also Biden and the DNC problem. Well, no, right now, it's really it's not the DNC. It's the Dems in Congress, right? It's the people. It's the Dems in Congress right now. The president can't really. The president can't really dictate anything here. He can facilitate negotiations, and he can say, all right, well, Congress is probably going to have to do something here. I don't know. I mean, unless he has like ability to do like an executive action by declaring a national emergency or something. I don't know, whatever. I don't know how broad. But I don't know how broad Joe Biden's ability to do anything here would be, but it would be significant if instead of saying, like, Congress, you're just going to have to solve this problem, I don't care. He could have just simply said to the railroad companies, like, yeah, dude, I'm siding with the workers, and I'm going to call on Congress to enforce a deal that benefits them. How about that? How about them apples? That's what he should have done, just as like a public announcement. Automod likes me. I like you, Maple Leaf Dragon. I approved it. Yeah, of course, they're out of touch. They're all a bunch of rich fucks. True. At least Congress is trying something. Yeah, well, nah, I don't know about that. I think Congress is going to end up the tentative deal is set to basically favor the railroad companies. That's why these workers here are complaining. That's why they're angry. But we'll get to this right afterwards. As soon as I can get this ad off my... There we go. Biden saved the midterms by announcing the original settlement. Yeah, but the original settlement wasn't exactly 100% what the workers really needed. And that's what triggered the potential strike to begin with. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that, well, the problem wasn't really solved. For the 12, yeah, okay. Under the Railroad Labor Act, oh wait, no, hold on. 4 of the 12 railroad unions representing a majority of the railroad workforce have rejected this tentative new union. Yeah, and like, this idea that like, oh yeah, not all, not the minimum minority of railroad unions rejected this tentative view. That's not representative of the whole workforce. The 4 wait, no, I might have misread that. If 4 of the 12 railroad unions representing a majority of the railroad workforce have rejected a tentative new union contract agreement which fails to address their concerns. If any of the 12 unions go on strike, each union has agreed to honor the picket line. So yeah, the deal that that these 4 had originally agreed with, clearly they don't stand by it that strongly if they're willing to strike. If they're willing to strike in solidarity. But he saved the midterms. What more do you want? I want him to do something. At the very least, what he should have done is announce his support for the workers. Is announce his support for the railroad workers. That's what he could do, or should have done, I guess. I don't. It's probably too late now. But that's what he should have done. That's what he should have done. He should have said, okay, I'm gonna throw my support with the railroad workers. And well, you better help them out here, because if not, Congress is going to step in, and I'm calling on Congress today to make, the tentative contracts favor the workers and get the workers what they need. And that's it. Yeah, I don't know if he saved the midterms. First of all, I don't think that that's entirely true. But nonetheless, this isn't about the midterms. The midterms are done. The midterms are done, right? That those elections are done with, except for the runoff. He doesn't have to worry about that. The midterms are done. This isn't like an electoral angle at all. In fact, no, never mind. In fact, if you really wanted to play that up, imagine what a good look that would be for the 2024 campaign, because he's set to run again. So based on that assumption, hypothetically, he could shore up that W. That's an easy W. Okay? That's an easy W. That's an easy W he could present. That's an easy W he can present. Making a statement that he supports the railroad workers and calls on Congress to do something about it. Carpet Packs, how's it going? Well, no. He's the one that's in power. He has decisions to make. He has decisions to make. And, well, if he's going to propose himself as the most pro-union president, wouldn't you think that it would, I don't know, wouldn't it be appropriate if he's trying to propose himself, or I don't know what the word is, whatever. He's trying to present himself as a pro-union president. This doesn't look like a pro-union president. Yeah, that's the problem. Exactly. The midterms were a massive. It was more like the Dems didn't get destroyed like everybody thought they would be. That's more of really the win. But anyways, again, the midterms are over. This is not about the midterms. This is not about who saved the midterms for Dems. Donald Trump did. Unironically. Donald Trump did, in his cohort of election deniers who did incredibly poorly in the elections. So that there's many factors. There's many factors. It's not just like, what Biden did. One thing I will say is that, yes, the student debt relief attempt helped his numbers and probably helped the Democrats in the midterms, but this isn't about the midterms. This is after the midterms. You think at the end of his life, Biden would want to be more bold in favor? Yeah, that's, you would think. Yeah, it's more like a smaller L. True. I think Joe had a huge hand in the W. Well, I mean, I'm sure he had something to do with it. I just don't know how big. How big of a factor that is. How big of a factor Trump's candidates were. I don't know. All they have to do is offer vaporware to get votes, and after the election, they ejaculate dust. Yeah, like, again, it doesn't. The elections are done, right? It is what it is. The elections are done. It is what it is. Here's the current opportunity now. Here's the current opportunity that's being presented in the here and the now, and he chose to not side with the workers. That's my point, and I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair criticism. Under the Railroad Labor Act, workers' right to legally strike is limited in transportation services. The last railroad strike in the U.S. occurred in 1992, 2 days before Congress intervened. Congress, the House Speaker Pelosi said Congress would take up legislation on Wednesday to stop a nationwide strike that would honor the original labor agreement brokered by the Biden administration in September to avoid industrial action ahead of the midterms. She said the agreement is not everything I would like to see, and I would like to see paid sick leave, but like that's the point. But that's the point. That's why they're mad. That's why the workers are bad. Jesus. Every leading Democratic in the world has it. So then what's the problem? She's the one that has the ability to fix this here. Lots of folks voted for Dems because they thought Joe sorted the rail and student loans. Well, I mean, it was certainly a positive, but I don't think that that's like alone. There's definitely multiple factors at play here. Maple Leaf Dragon points out another one. And clearly he didn't sort the railroad situation. Clearly, we're talking about it right now. So the point being is, Biden one hand and Trump's overconfidence on the other. Well, Trump's election deniers. And the fact that like the GOP is just so terrible. It's just so terrible. That we managed to kind of take the wins out of those sales. But that's not a sustainable strategy, folks. But anyways, I don't like going against the ability of a union to strike, but weighing the equities, we must avoid a strike. Like, so then what am I supposed to do with this statement? I don't like going against the ability of a union to strike, but but that's funny. Thank goodness for Posada Bot. If Joe did not do it, the GOP would have 30 seats of lead. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I don't know. I think the GOP is quite capable of torpedoing themselves in this day and age. Senate Dems need to fight harder for... Stop it. Harder than Marco Rubio for railroad workers. Alright, let's take a look at this one. Okay. Parker expressed dismay and disappointment over the Biden administration's push to impose a tentative agreement most railroad workers voted against, and warned that the impacts of doing so without addressing the quality of life issue would probably lead to higher attrition rates in the workforce that has already experienced significant decline in employment in recent years. So, like, they're going to inadvertently compound the problem instead of just outright fixing it. Yeah. Nice. So, okay, so I did read this correctly. 4 of the 12 railroad unions representing a majority of the railroad workforce have rejected this contract. So the majority of the workforce, which most workers voted against, doesn't really fix the problem at hand. Is just setting up, setting us up for disaster. What they really should be concerned with is newly voting Gen Zers taking a lot less time to catch on and radicalize. True. True. The kids are alright. Hopefully. Mostly. The kids alright. As railroad carriers have implemented cuts and more grueling scheduling systems, they've also reported record profits, of course, as Maple Leaf pointed out, and have paid out $196 billion in stock buybacks and dividends. Nice. Yeah, so we can't like simultaneously say, hey, we're pro union and we respect the rights for unions to strike, but also like, nah. Can I share my relevant tweet? You should be able to. Go ahead. Do you not think that the rail unions were naughty to threaten a strike just before the midterms? No. No, I don't think it's relevant. I think that workers who feel that they're getting shafted and have given ample opportunity for the railroad companies to fix it. I don't think they need to take anything into consideration other than, hey, this is my life. So this is my life. So I'm going to do whatever I need to do to fix this. And labor should be able to exercise their power regardless. Haven't they been looking to strike for a while? Yeah. And the companies refused to play ball. So you know what? F them. Yeah, workers don't run on Congress's schedule, nor should it be nor should we be like hamstrung by, anything else. That's one thing I will say. Workers, if you've given time, and opportunities for these companies to work this out and fix this, and you decided that no, my quarterly profits and my shareholders are more important than workers' conditions and work-life balance, then yeah, F it. I don't care. True. Congress is only in session 40% of the time regular people work. True. If there's a railroad strike, it'll be because extremely profitable railroad corporations refuse to grant reasonable requests from workers they can easily afford. Pass it on. True! There we go. It's that simple. You want a TLDR of the problem here? There it is. That's the TLDR right here. If like, especially with like record profits, and you're telling me that they're unwilling to give like the basics of basics, like, I don't know, proper scheduling, proper paid time off. Really? $196 billion in stock buybacks and dividends. Unions can only use leverage they have, and they're entitled to do whatever they can to maximize pressure. We don't call Democratic donors naughty for sending them money in 12 months before the election in exchange for audiences with policymakers. True! I tweet good. True. Yeah, imagine telling your employees that they can't get sick because, the shareholders require $196 billion in dividends and stock buybacks. Anyways, BNSF and Union Pacific, the two largest railroad corporations in North America, both reported record profits in 2021. BNSF is owned by billionaire investor Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway conglomerate. Bernie Sanders hit out at Buffett last week. Warren Buffett, the owner of this railroad parent company, became $1.38 billion richer yesterday. Cool. In one day, Mr. Buffett made twice as money as it would cost to guarantee 15 paid sick leaves a year to every railroad worker in America. The greed of the railroad industry must end. True. Like honestly, if Congress and the current administration would come out and be like, hey, if you guys, continue down this path, we'll figure out what the roadmap is, but we can lay the groundwork for nationalization. Would you prefer that or what? Berkshire Hathaway owns Dairy Queen and Duracell. Jeez. Barker claimed this action to call for imposing a rejected contract undermines Biden's relationship with labor, as he repeatedly and proudly claimed to be the most pro-union president ever. What railroad workers are standing up for is a better quality of life, to get respect that they deserve and benefits that they deserve and have earned. Sick time, reasonable time off to rest, when the majority of the railroad workforce works on call 24/7, 365 days a year. Jesus Christ. With increased demands that the railroads have put on their personnel cuts with these draconian attendance policies, railroaders are not given sufficient time off to rest, recoup, and recover from illness or spend time with family. That's what they're looking for. The failure to address that would have a profound effect in the future on the ability for railroads to hire and maintain workers. Jeff Kurtz, a locomotive engineer for Iowa for more than 40 years, severely criticized the Biden administration's tentative agreement. It's not just about paid time off. It's about time off, period, said Kurtz, who now has retired. Basically, what the carriers, and now it looks like what Congress is going to say too, is that you're pretty well tied up for your job for the rest of your life. In the railroad agreement, workers were provided with one paid day off and the ability to schedule 3 doctor's appointments annually without being penalized. Wow, thank you, overlords, as they graciously allow 3 days a year to schedule doctor's appointment. 3. Stock buybacks are literally a company saying we have too many liquid assets and we have nothing better to do with them. They can literally call a worker in from his own kid's wedding, and if he doesn't jump, he's fired, or a funeral. Yep. They're on call 24/7, 365. But Kurtz noted that the parameters and restrictions make it nearly impossible to use the time off and provide employers with even greater interference and control over the workers' health care. Workers had sought 15 paid days off in the contract. The Presidential Emergency Board was just no help whatsoever. I thought it would be somewhat more labor-friendly, but it could have been written by the carriers as far as I was concerned. Jesus Christ. That's rough. Yikes. That's 1.25 days per month. That's right. Good luck. House votes to avert, and we all know how health works, right? We all know how health works, right? We plan health emergencies all the time. In fact, I scheduled my next cold for next month. Just like 15 is 25 cents a minute. Yep. House votes to avert a rail strike and impose a deal on unions. The House moved urgently to head off the looming nationwide rail strike on Wednesday, passing a bill that would bind companies and workers to a proposed settlement that was reached in September but rejected by some of the 12 unions involved. Not some, the majority of workers. Those unions were the biggest ones. The measures passed by a vote of 290 to 137, now heads to the Senate. If it is approved there, it will be signed by President Biden, who urged the Senate to act swiftly. Without the certainty of a final vote to avoid a shutdown this week, railroads will begin to halt movement of critical materials like chemicals to clean our drinking water as soon as this weekend. Damn, maybe we should listen to the workers then. That sounds really important. Damn. It almost like highlights the importance of labor here. yeah, these workers have the ability to basically say like, yeah, our clean drinking water is compromised. Maybe, I don't know, maybe um we should work with them. Let me say that again. Without action this week, disruptions to our auto supply chains, our ability to move food table. So workers make this whole thing run. Essentially, is what he's admitting here. Workers are what makes everything go, not the shareholders, not the CEOs. It's the workers. This statement here highlights the importance of labor. Business groups, including U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the American Farm Bureau Federation, have warned that halting rail service would cause a devastating $2 billion per day to hit the economy. Damn, so the workers produce all this? I don't know. Maybe they're kind of important. Um, Maybe we should treat them as such. This work is so important that they should be underpaid and have no holidays. The more important they are, the less they earn, right? That's why Warren Buffett earns billions. True. The bill would impose a compromise labor agreement brokered by the Biden administration that was ultimately voted down by 4 of the 12 unions, representing roughly 115,000 employees at the large freight railroads. The unions have threatened to strike if an agreement can't be reached before a December 9th deadline. Lawmakers from both parties expressed reservation about overriding the negotiations, and the intervention was particularly difficult for the Democratic lawmakers who have traditionally sought to align themselves with the politically powerful labor unions that criticized Biden's move to intervene in the contract dispute and block a strike. Um, Again, you can't say that you are pro labor and that you're pro union and you're the most pro union president, FDR, whatever you want to call yourself, and then do this. The House Speaker responded to that concern by adding a second vote Wednesday that would add 7 days of paid sick leave per year for railroad workers covered under the agreement. However, it will take effect only if the Senate goes along and passes both of these measures. The House passed a sick leave measure as well, but by a much narrower margin, um, 221 to 207, as Republicans overwhelmingly opposed it, indicating the prospects for the passage of the add-on are slim in the evenly divided Senate. Business groups and Association of American Railroad Trade Association praised the House vote to block the strike, but urged senators to resist adding sick time to the deal. Right? Imagine like cool dudes. Imagine lobbying to remove sick days. Imagine calling for making sure added sick time is removed. Unironic ghouls. Yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it. Um, BCZ4R. You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't call yourself a pro union president, pro labor, whatever, and then do this. Yeah. Unscheduled time off? Blasphemy. You are not allowed to get sick. Time with your family? Not a thing. Unless Congress wants to become de facto endgame for future negotiations, any effort to put its thumb on the bargaining scale to artificially advantage either party or otherwise would obstruct a swift resolution and would be wholly irresponsible, said Ian Jeffrey, the head of the AAR, which is the fucks, the ghouls that are literally lobbying against adding sick days. On the other hand, the Transportation Trade Department Labor Coalition that includes all the railroad unions praised the vote to add sick time and told lawmakers who voted against it that they had abandoned your working class constituents. The call for more paid sick leave was a major sticking point in the talks with other quality of life concerns. The railroad said unions have agreed in negotiations over the decades to forego paid sick time in favor of higher wages and short-term disability benefits. Jeffrey said Tuesday the railroads would consider adding paid sick time in the future, but said that change should wait for a new round of negotiations instead of being added now near the end of the 3-year contract talks. The unions maintain that the railroads can easily afford to add paid sick time at a time when they're recording record profits. Several of the big railroads involved in these contracts talks reported more than $1 billion in profit in the third quarter. Quite frankly, the fact that paid leave is not part of the final agreement between the railroads and labor is, in my opinion, obscene. Said Representative Jim McGovern, it should be there, and I hope that it will be there at the end of this process. Most railroad workers don't receive any paid sick time, but they do have short-term disability benefits that kick in after as little as 4 days that can replace some of their income for a year or more. Railroad workers also receive vacation and personal leave days, but workers say it's difficult to use for those for illness because they must typically be approved ahead of time. Right. Would people agree that politicians lie? Yeah, all the time. In this political climate, any deal to help railroad workers is not necessarily negative. Well, if it was to help the railroad workers, we would we wouldn't be complaining about it. If this was to favor like labor, then we wouldn't be complaining about it. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be 6 in about 6 months. Let me just file for sick leave. Yeah. That's usually how I do it. I usually schedule my colds a couple of months ahead of time. So yeah, and I usually have my crystal ball right next to me to tell me exactly when the cold is gonna hit, so that I know exactly when to schedule it. I got you, Maple Leaf Dragon. I'm going. All right. Sure, I'll add that one for... All right. Thank you to the new YouTube subscriber as well. I appreciate that. We are getting there, folks. Most railroad workers don't receive any paid sick time, but they do. Oh, yeah, okay. So Republican also voiced support for the measure to block the strike, but criticized the Biden administration for turning to Congress to step in to fix the mess. They've retreated into failure and kicked this problem to Congress for us to decide. Republicans criticized Pelosi's decision to add the sick bill leave to the mix. They said the Biden administration's own special board of arbiters recommended higher wages to compensate the unions for not including sick time in its recommendations. Okay, but that's not the issue. That's not the issue. If the problem was wages, they would be threatening to strike over wages. Why do we even have a system? Why do we even have the system set up the way it is if Congress is going to come in and make changes to all the recommendations? Well, because they were recommendations, not like set in stone. Jesus. Well, to be fair, one could make an argument that worker slavery is already a thing. Why do we even have this system? Yeah, okay. So Pelosi sought to position Dems and the Biden administration as defenders of unions and slammed the railroad companies, saying that they've slashed jobs, increased worker hours, and cut corners on safety. But she said Congress needed to intervene. Well, if Congress needed if Congress needed to intervene, then why not intervene in favor of the workers? This is what's blowing my mind right now. You can't have it both ways. When you have no other skills, you feel stuck in a job and you're at your employer's mercy, then are you really free? Not really. Not really, especially when that determines whether or not you get to eat. Especially whether that determines, if that determines whether or not you have, a roof over your head. No wage slave is really free. True. We just have the illusion. Because, well, it just feels that way, but it's not. Right, they call it livelihood because it determines your ability to live. Yeah. Correct. If those are the preconditions that determine whether or not you have food over your head, a roof over your head, and food to eat, then yeah. And 45's tax returns on Congress right now. Ha! We'll see if anything comes out of that, Michael Hassler. Ha! I guess you lost that fight ultimately. I just checked, no food over my head. Well, that's good. Food over your head is a roof to eat, technically. True.
Please clap.
If you get to the end of the month with no money left, you're living on borrowed time, essentially. And that's no way to live either. That's pretty effed up. That's pretty effed up. I mean, like, who would want to support a system that puts you on a perpetual hamster wheel, with effectively no way out of the damn thing, lest you starve? I think I have a couple more in here. Let me dig. Families wouldn't be able to buy groceries or life-saving medication because it would be even more expensive, and perishable goods would spoil before reaching shelves. Well, that sounds like the fact that we are making this statement, quote, life-saving medication would be more expensive. That's a massive red flag here. Gee, why is that? Because the implication here is that life-saving medication is expensive. This would make it even more expensive. Why is that? That's the real question. Why is it that life-saving medication is expensive to begin with? The GOP does vote against any medical discount. Yeah, the GOP is going to vote against anything remotely that would say, lower prescription drugs or anything that would help with healthcare, because that's, socialism or whatever. Yeah, like we don't have excess of goods that go to waste to begin with. True. Yeah, and also that's that's a good point. That's a good point. The implication here is, well, just remember when this happens, it's going to be the railroad workers' fault. So we can't have that. That's pretty. The implication is pretty gross here. How soul destroying to be forced to live off social security checks. I mean, not really if it's properly made. Not really if it's properly funded and properly done. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It should be perfectly fine to be able to live off of social security checks. As obviously, as an elderly person who has worked literally their entire lives, they should be able to live off social security checks fine, with no problems. So many people do it. Just gotta live cheaply. Yeah. The compromise agreement that was supported by railroads and a majority of the unions provides for 24% raises and 5,000 in bonuses. Yeah, again, this is completely irrelevant. The railroad workers don't give a shit about this. If it was if the railroad workers were complaining about wages, it would be a different thing. The raises would be the biggest railroad have received in four. It doesn't matter. That's not why they're complaining. That's not why they're threatening to strike. Workers would have to pay a larger share of their health insurance costs, but their premiums would be capped at 15%. Yeah, well, okay, whatever. The agreement did not resolve the workers' concerns and about scheduling and make it harder for them to take a day off and lack more paid sick time. Right, that's the problem. If this doesn't get resolved, you're compounding the issue. The oligarchs think it's less expensive to just let the commoners continue bringing by any means necessary to replenish the workforce rather than just pay trained workers in the long term. What do you mean? Like, do you mean like they think that so the more people have children, the more workers? Right, it's hard to it links the loss of bodily autonomy to the worker crisis. It's the idea where they can just cycle through people by burning them out, right? Do you think that's what they're thinking? That you think that that's what their mindset is at? I mean, I don't know. If anything, it's harder to have children without any paid leave. Yeah. So it's well, I mean, it's a bit contradictory, right? Because like simultaneously, you'll be like, yeah, we'll just completely just burn through people, but also it's incredibly expensive and difficult to have children, and also we won't provide workers with the time off to raise, like, I don't know. It seems very contradictory. But no one ever said that these people were thinking logically. I don't know. It might be the case. I have no idea what's going on. Rail workers deserve at least 7 days of paid sick leave. Most other workers already get that. True. It's also a way to focus the attention of workers. The employees already have already let the workforce dwindle to maximize profit. Exactly, which is part of the problem. Because they've spread themselves so thin that it's part of the reason why we're here in terms of like the whole railroad worker situation. They've spread themselves so thin that's what it is. Kind of giving me the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, these people don't care. Remember, to these oligarchs, you're nothing but a number. To these oligarchs, you're nothing but another, piece to use. That's it. I mean, like, you can kind of tell the mentality that's going on by simply saying, by lobbying against the idea of 7 days of paid sick leave while posting record profits to the tune of billions. On several past occasions, Congress has intervened in labor disputes by enacting legislation to delay or prohibit railroad and airline strikes. Okay. Senate Dems need to fight harder than Marco Rubio for railroad workers. True, Senate Dems really do need to fight. Well, the Democratic Party should be willing to fight more. Yes. He. That's what I was saying. Like before, last week or the week before, I was saying, if and when this strike happens, don't forget that it's the corporations who refused to just give like basic things to the workers. They're the reasons why you're in the situation that you're in, not the workers. Well, it's nowhere near perfect. I'm glad that I live in Canada. Nice. Yes, the union reps got it right. Workers graft for pay. Shareholders do no work and make more. True. True. And like I said, most of the disputes, most of the problems that are here, is just really quality of life issues, not pay. President Biden wants Congress to block a road strike after members of the 4 key unions rejected a contract proposal that failed to address their demands for paid sick leave, regular scheduled weekends, and other quality of life concerns. And top Democrats in the House and Senate are jumping on board for the federal intervention, with House Speaker Pelosi telling reporters that I don't like going against the ability of unions to strike, but weighing the equity side, we must avoid a strike. So, like, yeah, this is completely contradictory. On Wednesday, the House voted 290 to 137 to impose a tentative agreement that key unions rejected. 79 Republicans joined most Dems in voting the measure in a separate 221. Yes, okay, so we went over this. Unfortunately, this provision could be dropped by the Senate in a move that would simply approve the agreement that a majority of railroad workers have rejected. Cool. Way to listen to labor. So a Congress controlled by Democrats could still, at the behest of a Democratic president who positioned himself as the country's most pro-labor leader since FDR, force workers to accept a contract that fails to meet the reasonable and necessary demands. Yeah, the TLDR is exactly what I feel. Is exactly how I feel. And that's wrong. Unless sick leave provision is included, Congress should not intervene. Biden, Pelosi, and the Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, said that intervention is necessary to avoid the economic instability that could result from an extended strike. Or call on these corporations to stop being greedy. The conspiracy theory was a rail issue engineer. No. This has been going on for a while. This is not a new problem. This has been compounded for a while now, and then like now it's just like it's boiling over. It really got bad because of the pandemic, and yeah. But their argument neglects the basic premise of labor negotiations in a way that takes the most vital bargaining chip that railroad unions have, the strike threat, at precisely the point when it's most likely to be effective. Right, like it's not a conspiracy theory. Simply, they're just trying to use their leverage where they can. Maple Leaf Dragon with 55 biddies. Count them, 55. Thank you so much. A statement from one of the key unions explained kind words from the Democrats don't mean a lot when workers are disempowered. It's not enough to just share workers' concern, said the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way employees announced in response to the move by Dems to impose an inferior contract. Fun with biddies. Giroux. Adopting the tentative agreement that excludes paid sick leave, would the union say ignore the railroad workers' concern. It both denies railroad workers their right to strike, while also denying them the benefits that they would likely otherwise obtain if they were not denied their right to strike. Right. The other option that the Biden administration could do, or at least just as like a rhetoric thing, is just to say, you know what, we're gonna let this go. The railroad companies expected us to do your dirty work. Expected Congress to do your dirty work? Nah. You've got a strike on your hands. Fix it. That's another option they could have done. If the measure succeeds without the provision, congressional leaders and Biden will be imposing a contract that was rejected by a majority of the 115,000 workers whose union, the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers, or Transportation Division, or SMART TD, the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way Employees Division of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, the Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen, and the International Brotherhood of Boilermakers have been negotiating with the railroad companies. While a number of rail unions have accepted the contract deal in ratification votes, there is widespread frustration within the industry at what the Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen President Michael Baldwin describes as the lack of good faith bargaining by the railroad companies that have failed to recognize the safety-sensitive and highly stressful jobs BRS members perform each day to keep the railroad running and supply chain flowing. U.S. Labor Secretary Robert Reich, former U.S. Labor Secretary Robert Reich, has been even blunter when discussing the refusal of the railroad companies to bend to union demands for basic workplace protection. Is there a better definition of corporate greed than Warren Buffett-owned railway refusing to provide workers with paid sick leave despite the company reporting a net income of nearly $6 billion? Reich asked on Monday. Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway company owns the BNSF Railroad Company, one of the nation's largest carriers. The union that have rejected the tentative agreement want to keep negotiating, and they make a compelling case against federal action that would undermine their ability to get a better deal before the strike deadline on December 9th. The railroad executives who constantly complain about government interference and regularly badmouth regulators now want Congress to do the bargaining for them. True! One senator who echoed that point of view was an unlikely ally, Republican Marco Rubio. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. How embarrassing. How freaking embarrassing. Not that Marco Rubio actually gives a shit about any of this. But Uh, quote, instead of relying on Congress to carry their water, the party should go back to negotiating table and strike a fair deal that workers can accept. On a rhetorical level, the Democrats should be embarrassed that someone like Marco Rubio is saying something to that effect. Just because the Congress has the authority to impose a heavy-handed solution does not mean we should. It is wrong for the Biden administration, which has failed to fight for workers, to ask. Like again, Marco Rubio, has no business talking. He doesn't give a shit about the working class. But how does that look? How does that look? Make no mistake. Marco Rubio and the Republican Party do not give a single shit about the working class. But how does this look? It is wrong for the Biden administration, which has failed to fight for workers, to ask Congress to impose a deal the workers themselves have rejected. Jesus Christ. The senator who has pledged to oppose any deal that doesn't have the support of the rail. And of course, like, he's just going to vote, to make himself look like he's a friend of the workers, while knowing that that's not going to go. Workers have a right to be skeptical regarding Rubio. The senator's lifetime AFL-CIO rating is an embarrassing 11%, and he frequently takes unfair shots at union leaders, including those in the rail sector. Right, like I said, Marco Rubio, nobody to talk here, but people aren't gonna freaking look into what his voting record is. People aren't gonna look at what he said previously. They're gonna see that little tidbit, that little what is it? Segment that shows up in the news. Yet last year, Rubio expressed sympathy for union organizing efforts by Amazon, and later he joined the Ohio Democrat Sherrod Brown, one of the Senate's most ardent union backers, to call on the U.S. Department of Labor to launch a full investigation into Amazon. Now Rubio is complaining about how Wall Street's drive for efficiency has turned rail workers into little more than line items on a spreadsheet. Well, congratulations. You've just discovered another issue with capitalism. Wow, dude, cool. This has only been pointed out by the left since like forever. Yes, cool, dude. Rubio's wrong about a lot of things, but he's right about this. Democrats can't simply impose an agreement on railroad workers. At the very least, they have to make it better by approving the sick leave provision. That's what a number of senators proposed to do, including Bernie Sanders, Kirsten Gillibrand, Tammy Baldwin, and Cory Booker, Sherrod Brown, Ed Markey, Jeff Merkley, and Alex Padilla of California, Jack Reed, Sheldon Whitehouse, Tim Smith, Elizabeth Warren. In a joint statement released on Wednesday afternoon, they said Congress can and must make this agreement better. During the first 3 quarters of this year, the railroad industry is making a record-breaking $21 billion in profits. Yes, that's right. That is a bare minimum that Congress must do to justify any sort of intervention. If the votes are not there to add sick leave for the railroad workers to the agreement, then the Democratic position should be that the companies and unions must return to the bargaining table. True! That's what Marco Rubio is saying. Whether the senator from Florida is being sincere or cynical, the Democratic position on labor should be more strongly pro-worker, and it absolutely cannot be worse than Rubio's stances, at least rhetorically outward, on the surface. Because again, he does not, make no mistake, Marco Rubio and the Republican Party doesn't give a shit about labor, not an iota. Rubio must own stock in the rail industry. It's hard to logically find another reason for this. I don't know. Maybe he's just being opportunistic. It's hard to tell. I don't exactly trust Marco Rubio. Anyways, that's where we're at. December 9th is next Friday, so we'll see. This is an important article. U.S. to pay millions to move tribes threatened by climate change. Yep. This is where we're at. The Biden administration will give 3 native tribes $75 million to move away from coastal areas or rivers, one of the nation's largest efforts to help relocate to date to relocate communities that are facing an urgent threat from climate change. 3 communities, 2 in Alaska and 1 in Washington state, will each get $25 million to move their key buildings onto higher ground and away from rising waters, with the exception that the homes will follow. The federal government will give 8 more tribes $5 million each to plan for relocation. It gives me goosebumps when I found out we got that money, said Joseph John Jr., a council member in Newtok, a village in southwest Alaska where the land is quickly eroding. It will receive $25 million to relocate inland, and it will mean a lot to us. The project, funded by the Interior Department, is an acknowledgement that a growing number of places around the U.S. can no longer be protected against against changes brought by a warming planet, i.e., climate change. The spending is meant to create a blueprint for the federal government to help other communities, native as well as non-tribal, to move away from vulnerable areas. Yeah, it's 2022, folks, and we're already at the point where we need to deploy measures like this. Relocating whole communities, sometimes called managed retreat, is perhaps the most aggressive form of adaptation to climate change. Despite the high initial cost, relocation may save money in the long run by reducing the amount of damage from future disasters along with costs of rebuilding after those disasters. $25 million doesn't sound all that much. I guess it depends on how many people are going to benefit from that. Nonetheless, the point that the government is having to resort to these actions further highlights the urgency to deal with the climate crisis. But of course, relocation is also disruptive. In 2016, the Obama administration gave Louisiana $48 million to relocate the small coastal village of Isle de John Charles, which has lost most of its land to the Gulf of Mexico. Residents struggled to agree on where the new village should be built, but it wasn't until this year that people began moving into their new homes. Jesus. 2016. Another challenge is deciding which places to help first. This year, the Bureau of Indian Affairs held a contest in which tribal nations applied for up to $3 million in relocation money. Of the 11 tribes that applied, only 5 received funding. The Bureau would not say how it had decided which tribes to help relocate. The $25 million awards announced on Wednesday, which will fund a significant portion of the cost of relocation, followed a process that was more opaque. According to officials, there was no application process. Instead, the Bureau considered tribes that had already done some degree of planning for relocation and applied 5 criteria, including the amount of risk they currently faced, whether they had selected new sites to move, and their readiness to move. In addition to Newtok, other tribes to receive $25 million were Napakiak, a village on the shore of the Kuskokwim, oh man, this is horrible, river that is losing 25 to 50 feet of land each year to erosion, and the Quinault Indian Nation on Washington State Olympic Peninsula, whose main town, Toaloa, faces a growing risk of flooding. 8 other tribes will get $5 million each to consider whether to relocate and begin planning for relocation if they decide to do so. They include the Chitimacha tribe, the Yurok, and other native villages in Alaska. The federal government needs to learn how to help relocate communities they want to move, said Brian Newland, Assistant Secretary. Like, why is it still called Indian Affairs? Okay. At the Interior Department, the new funding will be a chance for the Bureau to learn to coordinate its relocation efforts with other agencies that work on disaster recovery, including FEMA. Because the impact of climate change is unfortunate, this work is necessary, said Mr. Newland, who is a citizen of the Bay Mills Indian community. We have to make sure that the tribes continue to exist and continue their way of life. Yeah, seriously. I mean, it's not that hard to, rename a new agency. Anyways, the point being is that this is happening now. In 2022, The government is shoring up tens of millions of dollars to begin the process of relocating these indigenous people because of climate change. In 2022. The hidden cost of the price of gas, and there's much more. Yep. In reality, we pay over $10 a gallon. Wait, what? Where do we... How did you make that math work? Debate me, bruh. Here, I got you. Don't worry. 1 second. Ready?
Debate me, debate me, debate me. Enter the ring of logic and reason. If I don't know what I'm talking about and you point that out, that's an ad hominem, baby. Your argument's been demolished.
If I say something heinous and that makes you angry,
That's an emotional argument, and I win. You're going up against the titan of the mind.
so you don't want a free exchange of ideas?
Isn't that what society's all about? You're never gonna change my mind, but a bunch of dumbasses online will think I won. Why don't you want to debate? Please debate me. Oh, come on, please debate me.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. That's you right there. Location costs, huge FEMA costs, the crop failures and millet. Oh, okay, yeah. All right. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like relocating indigenous people hasn't been problematic in the past. True. Except here, the circumstances are pretty much the federal government's responsibility here to do it because of climate change. That's the circumstances here. And yeah, you're right. The fact that they can, as someone pointed out, like 25 million doesn't sound like a lot. Yeah. I'm just pointing out that this is what's becoming necessary now. In 2022, this is what's becoming necessary. Imagine in a couple of decades. Imagine 2040, 2050? Scary thought. Scary thought. All right, folks, we made it. We freaking made it. Imagine having to locate half of Florida. Yeah, we're talking about like small, small indigenous communities. Imagine when like entire coastal areas are gonna need to be relocated, or underwater, one of the two. Imagine. That's gonna be fun. All right. We did it, folks. We got through everything, and we also did it at 8 o'clock. Food is ready too. Look at that. Perfect timing. All right, folks. I got to get out of here. We got through all the headlines we needed to get through, all the important headlines. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Folks, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. You get 5 free emotes. Join us Monday through Thursday. Tomorrow, I believe it's going to be another 6 p.m. stream. Join the Discord and follow me on Twitter for any updates. But I believe it might be another 6 p.m. Stream again. Subscribe to the YouTube, all right? It really does help us out. It takes 5 seconds. Hit the big red button. It really does help us out. Spread the word far and wide that we're here Monday through Thursday. This is one of the chillest places to be for the news and politics. I appreciate you guys. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. Thank you all for the support, the biddies, the follows, all that. You guys are what makes this go. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. See ya. Let's go mess with James. All right, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.